Ladies and gentlemen, I'm preparing for a New Year's party, but before I finish dressing for the occasion, wanted to jump in front of the cameras and tell you about another horror film being released. We can call tonight's lesson plan truly a diamond in the rough. It has unrealistic plot sequences, very sketchy acting, and rough segues. They all plague this movie, but there is a decent plot to it. And as you know, if you start with a good story, that's a foundation that you can build on, and some little foibles along the way can be excused as long as the narrative has substance. This one makes social commentary and rips apart women who are, addicted to their phones. Cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor is it. Greetings, salutations, another sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies, and tonight's lesson plan is a film called The Mannequin, and it's available on most of the big name streamers now. It is from Jack Rabbit Media. All right, this story is kind of interesting, and I told you that the story is really what holds this together because there's not too much else there to sink your teeth into. It opens up with a scene that happens in the past and therefore is shot in black and white. I know, cheap cinematic camera ploy, but it works in this one, and it's fun. Okay, what we have here is a photographer who basically does headshots and publicity shots for Hollywood studios. His name is Jack Bernard, and he is played by Jack Sochet. Choquette, if you don't give it the French. So he's our villain, if you will. Okay, we get to see him in action and how he works. Jump ahead into the future some 50 years, and we have Liana Rojas, and she buys an apartment, invites her friends over as a welcoming, house welcoming party. And then a few weeks later, she's dead in what appears to be a suicide. Yikes. Okay. Now, Liana's sister, it's played by Isabella Gomez, she decides to move into the apartment that her sister had. And she also brings along three friends to like kind of help move her in. And it's almost like a combination welcome to my home and let's have a wake for my sister type of a party. Included in this are Lindsay Levanchi, Shiree Lai, and Gabriela Rivera. They're all the friends. Okay, now they have one of them, Gabriela, has a boyfriend, and he is played by Maxwell Hamilton. Now he doesn't come to the party, but he figures into the story a little bit later. So while these ladies are celebrating and reminiscing about the dead sister, strange things start to happen inside the apartment. And the ladies soon come to realize, you know what? I don't think Liana committed suicide. It looks as if she was murdered, and the murderer is still here, and he's a ghost. Ah, now we have it good. And here's where the boyfriend jumps into the story because the boyfriend, who is Pete, uh, is involved in the supernatural. He has as his hobby the occult and talking to the dead. Maybe he watched too much of Amy Adams or possibly even Jack Edwards, and that's why he is has this as a hobby. So when the girls tell him what they think is going on and he comes over, he really pushes the panic button because all his little gizmos and electronic things that measure, ectoplasm or whatever, go sailing off the charts and what have you. Before you know it, all four people are marked for the serial killer's revenge. Here's a look now at the mannequin.
Then Jane Mansfield, Betty Page. How about we take a few with the dress on?
Jack? Jack!
This is huge.
I know.
What's back here?
Oh, shit, I thought that was a real person. So, where'd you get this?
Did you, get that when you started staying there?
Yeah. All three of us. We're not really sure what it's from.
Hazel. What are you doing?
Hazel.
The building was first used as a mannequin factory, operated by photographer Jack Bernard.
So you're saying that a dead serial killer is doing this to us?
Yes. We are going to provoke and trigger the spirits with prayer. Liana?
No.
All in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you, leave!
Okay, let's go behind the camera for a little bit here. Jonathan Pope is the director of photography. Um, he does some interesting things in this. The changing of the black and white to the color, I had already alluded to. And he uses some camera angles that are kind of interesting. Pope's big claim to fame is that he is a massive activist in Hollywood for the queer agenda. And when you're a script writer, you can certainly add that into the script. When you're a director of photography, yeah, that's a little trickier to kind of work in an agenda there because if you're good, you're following the storyboards and not shooting whatever it is you want to shoot. He does a decent job in this. The editor is Christina Leones, and she's done a fine job. The movie comes in at a good quality. It has a good pace, but it really picks up at the end. So in the last 20 minutes or so of the movie is when she's strongest. Everything is very tight, very close knit together, and the ending really moves well. John Berardo is the writer and the director of the movie. He's one of these guys that likes doing horror movies, and he has put together an awful lot of things in this. Let's talk a little bit about what he has written. Okay, I mentioned in the beginning that he really lambastes women who are addicted to their phones. Now, before Pete, the boyfriend, comes into the story, these three girls, well, four if you count the one that's holding the party, they really they're never detached from their phones. Okay, and they're using them in a variety of ways to look up who owned the apartment in the past, its history, the history of the photographer. You get the idea. Talking to each other and texting. All this stuff is being used. But what he's really making fun of in the script are the women who spend time on the internet, especially the ones who are looking for friendship, looking for love. These are the type of women who will say, if you want to take me out and possibly have a chance with me, you must be over 6 foot in height, you must earn six figures or mid six figures. You must drive this, that, and have a house here or there, and then maybe I'll consider dating you. Like their hoochie coochie is made out of gold, and you can't find better elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? Guys know what I'm talking about. So, and he just skewers these guys. It's not a funny movie. It's a horror movie. But the way these women act on the phones had me chuckling because we all know ladies like that. Usually they have three names, that type of thing. So you don't deal with that nonsense. Hey, some other things that are going on here. I want to talk a little bit about bodies and body shaming. Okay, that's something you're not supposed to do now. And there was a I don't know, fad maybe some time ago where they said, "Oh, women like dad bods." Okay, like that wasn't cooked up in some PR firm, right? Guys were really going to believe that. Well, now it's flipped over the other way. All right, there is something going on where they like thick girls. No, it's not spelled like you normally do. Yeah, okay. What you, the generation now is calling thick girls, we always refer to as chunks. They're a little chunky, but apparently these are the ha, and they generally are larger hips flaring out from the waist, and usually a thicker, rounder behind. Okay, I think I did that rather tastefully. Okay. I got to tell you something. That kind of build is indicative of the black subculture. That's where it comes from, and I'm not sure why they're trying to foist that on American culture because not many people go for that. They might settle for it in the dating scene, but they don't. I know certainly Italian boys don't go for that look. Like I said, that belongs to the subculture that the blacks have. You get that big booty back there that you can sit a drink on, and somehow they think that's attractive. That shows me as a girl it's lazy and isn't going to keep your house clean. So that just doesn't work on this side. Now, there's a couple of things goofy with this story too. If your sister attempts suicide and it succeeds and kills herself, okay, you haven't found out that it's a murder yet. Why do you move into the apartment in which she did that? Okay, I would think you'd want to move somewhere else completely different. Okay, big hole, and then celebrate with your friends. Okay, one of the girls in the group attempts to kill her ex-boyfriend. Now, there's a subplot here where the ghost of the demon is infiltrating their minds and controlling their actions. So she's not really sure, why she tried to kill her ex-boyfriend, but she does. And in the next scene, she's back at the party. So she attempts to kill her ex-boyfriend. The police come, save the boyfriend, the girl, and she's out at a party just like that. I don't think that's what really works to. So you got my sister was killed in this apartment. Let's have a party. Let's move right in. You know, I gotta kill my ex-boyfriend. I didn't succeed. Oh, let's have a party. Let's move right in. Okay. When you are dealing with the supernatural and you have evidence of the supernatural, that's probably not the time to make I am a strong, independent woman and I don't need to believe in religion or anything supernatural or the gods. And when stuff really starts getting weird in this movie, and it's evident that there's something going on that is way beyond the physical realm that you're familiar with, Shireen Lei, the Chinese girl who plays, Nadine, she decides to go off on these tirades about, you know, I won't admit to God. And I'm thinking, well, you have the devil standing in front of you and he's carrying a big axe. I think that's the time that you maybe better, get off your high horse and say, well, I might not be the most important person in the world. But no, she doesn't. So there are all of these, wow, bizarre twists and turns in this movie, and I mean, wake up and smell the roses. If you're staring a devil eye to eye, that's probably not the best time to say, I don't believe in God and won't do anything related to God to try to get rid of this demon. Well, demon likes hearing that kind of stuff. So there are an awful lot of things wrong with this movie. The sequences sometimes don't fit. You're wondering how these people who are getting into trouble are suddenly released and they're at parties. It's bizarre. I guess if you like thick girls, you'd enjoy watching this because John Pope does an awfully strenuous job of shooting these girls from like the knee up to the thighs and accenting their thickness. Okay, so you get a lot of those shots. So if you like that type of woman, you'll see plenty of it in the movie, and it'll keep you watching. Uh, but the story behind it wasn't a bad story. Actually, the more I talk about it, the more I'm surprised I made it to the end. But there it is. So we're going to give it a C plus grade because I didn't make it to the end, and I thought, well, okay, it was stupid, but it was a lot of fun. The movie is called The Mannequin, and it comes from Jack Rabbit Media. And now that you have learned what you have learned, here it is.